Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Dr. Robinson again, and we're going to continue our studies. This time we are talking about coin problems. All right, in solving coin problems, which deals with coins of different denominations, an example, nickels, dimes, and quarters, it is often helpful to represent the values of the coins in the same unit of money. For example, we have the value of 3 nickels. It's in cents. 3 times 5, because each nickel is worth 5 cents, and 3 times 5 would give us 15 cents. So we are, in a sense, removing the decimal point and just calling it cents. The value of D dimes in cents would be D for the number of dimes that you have, because each dime is worth 10 cents. So D times 10 would be 10D cents. The value of Q quarters. So if you have so many quarters called Q, each quarter is worth in cents 25. So Q times 25 cents, that would be 25. Let's put a little Q here. 25 Q cents. So note, whenever you're trying to solve a coin problem, it's best to organize your facts in a table. Here's a table that I've created. You should know that the number of coins times the value of each coin in cents is going to be equal to the total value of the coins in cents. So the number of coins that we have times the value of each coin in cents is equal to the total value of cents. So let's try an example and see what we got here. So we have Lewis here. He has $3.20 in his bank. It's made up of nickels, dimes, and quarters. There are 3 times as many quarters as nickels and 5 more dimes than nickels. Find how many dimes there are. All right, well, the first thing we should talk about is the kind of coins that he has. He has nickels, he has dimes, and quarters. So that's what it says in our problem, and we should underline that. So let's see. It didn't say anything about nickels. It did mention about quarters. So it says there are 3 times as many quarters as nickels. It says there are 5 more dimes than nickels. That didn't say anything about nickels. So my first thought would be, well, how much would I say the nickels are? Since I don't know, I'll just call them N. Now, let's talk about the dimes. More than is another way of saying plus. So you have 5 more dimes than nickels. So you're going to have more dimes than nickels. So you're going to have 5 more, as a matter of fact. So I would say 5 plus the number of nickels, and we called N the number of nickels. So that would be N plus 5. All right, now let's look at quarters. 3 times as many quarters. So we'd be multiplying 3 times as many quarters as there are nickels. So we don't know how many nickels there are, but we're going to have 3 times as many in quarters. So I would make 3 times the number N to represent my quarters. So here's my representation of these coins. And I know that a nickel is worth 5 cents, a dime is worth 10 cents, and a quarter is worth 25 cents. Notice I removed all the decimal points because I'm talking cents. So I'm going to multiply the number of coins times the value of each cent to give me a total value. Now, I don't know how many nickels that I have, but if I multiply that by 5, that'll give me 5N. I don't know how many dimes I have, but I know I have 5 more dimes than I have nickels. And if I multiply that by the value of a dime, 10 cents, I'll have 10 times the number of nickels plus 5. So that would represent dimes. So 10 times N plus 5. And I'll distribute that later. So you can distribute now, but you can distribute later. I have quarters, and there are 3 times as many quarters as nickels. So I have 25 cents, the value of quarters. So if I multiply 3 times 25, 3n times 25, that'll give me 75n, or I could write 25 times 3n. So I like to see the work myself. So there's Lewis over there smiling. Hi, Lewis. So let's build our equation. So we're going to take our nickels, our dimes, and our quarters, all of those values, and add them together. So if you look at our chart, here's our total value of the nickels, the dimes, and quarters. When we find out how many nickels and dimes and quarters we're going to have, that's going to add up to $3.20. So I took out the decimal point because I'm calling it cents. So that's 320 cents. So my solution now that I'm going to work out, the number of nickels was 5n, plus the number of dimes we represented 10 times n plus 5, plus 25 and times 3n, that's the number of quarters, that's going to equal to 320 cents. So now let's simplify this a little bit. I'm going to finally distribute. Let's see my distribution. 10 times n, that gives me 10n. 10 times 5, that gives me the 50. 25 times 3, that'll give me the 75n. So I will be left with this new equation, 5n plus 10n plus 50 plus 75n. And I notice I got a lot of n's here that I can bring that all together. So I got 5n plus 10n plus 75n. I can add that all up. That'll give me a total of 90n. And I have a plus 50 equals 320. So now it's starting to look a lot better. I'll do a little transposing, moving the minus 50 on the both sides. So minus 50 from here and a minus 50 from here. What that's going to do is cancel out the 50s from on this side, leaving me with a 90n, and 320 minus 50, I believe that gives me 270. And now all I have to do is divide by 90 on both sides, and I'll have my value of n. So n is equal to 3. And if you remember, we said n would represent the number of nickels. So that means I have 3 nickels. And if I have 3 nickels, I remember saying that there were 5 more dimes than nickels. So n was 3 plus 5 would give me a total of 8. So I have 8 dimes. So 3 nickels is what I found out that I had, but I have 5 more dimes than nickels. So for 3 plus 5, that would give me a total of 8 dimes. But what about quarters? We mentioned we had 3 times as many quarters as nickels. So 3 times 3, that would give us 9. So there would be a total of 9 quarters. So we got all of our numbers and our denominations here, nickels, dimes, and quarters, so we know all of them. We were only interested in dimes, though, but it's nice to find all of them. But let's check this out, see how it works out. So remember that it said that there are 3 times as many quarters as nickels. So the quarters equal 3 times the number of nickels. We said that there were 9 quarters, so 3 times 3, because there are 3 nickels, that would give us 9, and that checks out. So there are 3 times as many quarters as nickels. So there are 9 quarters and only 3 nickels. It also said that there are 5 more dimes than nickels. Well, since there are 5 more dimes than nickels, 5 plus the number of nickels, that would give us a total of 8 dimes. So there are 5 more nickels, 5 more dimes than nickels. Sorry. So 5 plus 3 is 8. But that's not the only check, because it said that Lewis had $3.20 in the bank. Well, if I had 8 dimes, that gives me 80 cents. If I had 3 nickels, that's 15 cents. If I had 9 quarters, that's a total of $2.25. If I added all that up, do you think it adds up to 320? Well, you get your calculator and you check it, because I believe it does. That was a good problem. So check your understanding. Go over it, watch the video, and see how you're doing with it. Here's a question for you to try about Samantha. She has 3 times as many dimes as nickels. In all, she has $1.40. How many dimes does she have? That's a good question. So here's another question. We have Stephanie has a purse that contains $1.35 in nickels and dimes. In all, there are 15 coins. How many coins are nickels? All right, so let's talk about the kind of coins that we have. And I notice there are nickels and dimes. So I list out my names. Now, the number of coins, it only says that there are 15 coins. So 15 coins that are there. So, so there are 15 coins. And they didn't do like the last question and outline the number of coins like they did, telling us they're this many as that many or more than and all that. So what are we going to do? Well, I know that there are 15 coins. Some of them have got to be nickels. I don't know how many nickels there are, so I'll just call them N for nickels. Now, to figure out, there are a total of 15. So if there are 15 coins, I don't know how many are nickels. What would I add to N to get me 15? Well, if I subtract N from both sides, the number of nickels, that'll give me what I'm looking for, the question mark. Question mark would equal to 15 minus the number of nickels. So that way I would know how many dimes I would have. Once I found the number of nickels, I would just subtract it from 15. So I'm going to represent dimes as 15 minus N. So that's a little bit of abstract math there, because I don't know how many nickels there are, but if I know there's a total of 15. So if I add N plus 15 plus negative N, I notice my N and my negative N, that'll cancel out, leaving me with 15. So it does add up to 15. So that's an interesting way of looking at the number of coins, because that time they didn't tell us how many more than or less than. Okay, well, we're going to multiply by the value of each coin. Well, a nickel is worth, right, 5 cents. A dime is worth, right, 10 cents. And this is going to equal to the total value of these coins. Well, we don't know how many nickels there are, but we'll represent it by N, and N times 5 equals, you got it, 5N. And now look at this. N, 15 minus N times 10, we'll just put parentheses around that, 10 times 15 minus N, and we'll distribute in a second. Let's get our equation going so we can figure out what's going on, because we got to get a total value here, and it's $1.35 is what's in Stephanie's purse. So we have nickels plus dimes has to add up to 135 cents. So we have our nickels as 5N and our dimes as 10 times 15 minus N, that equals 135 cents. So now let's work on our solution and simplify this. So now I'm going to actually do again my distribution. So I have 10 times 15, that'll give me 150. 10 times minus N, that'll give me minus 10N. And so now, bring down my 5N, I have to simplify a little bit more. I notice I have a 5N on this side and a minus 10N. I can bring those two together a little bit better. So let's bring those together. 10, what's 10? What's 5N minus 10N? Looks like it's going to give me a negative number. And if you said negative 5N, you are correct. So I brought my n's together. That gives me a negative 5N. And I have plus 150 equals 135. Well, let's get that 150 to the other side by subtracting it. So minus 150 from both sides. That way, what it does is it cancels out the 150. And now I have just left on this side the negative 5N. And 135 minus 50 is negative 15. I got negative numbers. Wow. Well, let's keep going south, and if I divide by negative 5 and both sides, Negative 15 divided by 5. Oh, by negative 5, that'll give me a positive number, because I cannot have negative money. There's no such thing as negative money. So n would equal to 3. And hey, we said n represented the number of nickels. So that means we have 3 nickels. And I think that's what they were asking, how many coins are nickels. So we finished this problem by solving for how many nickels that we have. But I am curious. I wonder how many dimes there are. Well, if you remember earlier, we didn't know that how many nickels there were or dimes. All we knew that was there were 15 coins in there. Well, if I know that there are 3 nickels, then I should be able to figure out how many dimes there are just by subtracting 3 from 15, and that'll give me the number of dimes. So 15 minus 3, that'll give me 12 dimes. So all I was supposed to find was 3 nickels, and I did find it. So there are 3 nickels in her purse, but there are also 12 dimes. Let's check this out. So we said her purse contains $1.35 in nickels and dimes only. So there are 15 coins in all. Well, we said 3 of them are nickels and 12 are dimes. So that if we add that up, that does add up to 15. But let's check out the quantity, the value of these quantities. If you have 3 nickels, that's 15 cents. If you have 12 dimes, that's $1.20. If we add it up, it should add up to $1.35. Does it? Then you have got the right answer. So that was a great problem as well. Here's one that Charles has. He has a jar containing $3.20, and it's in quarters and dimes. And there are 20 coins. Can you find how many quarters there are? Well, help Charles out. I hope you found this lesson easy. Check your understanding. If you have difficulty, write down your questions, bring them in. I'll be glad to solve them in class tomorrow. So this is Dr. Robinson signing off. I hope you enjoyed the video. Give us a thumbs up. Remember, if you want to write us, send us an email, robinsonmath@aol.com, and let us know how we're doing, and send your information if you would like a handout on more problems like this. I'll be glad to get it to you. So this is Dr. Robinson signing off. See you tomorrow.